But Baalbek, if there was one example, one ancient site on Earth that is evidence of a lost, ancient, advanced civilization, and Baalbek has the largest stones that were ever quarried in human history, the largest stones that were lifted, stacked, and transported in human history, and the largest stone columns in all of classical history.
62 feet long and 14 feet high. Like, what is the weight of that? What's the overall weight?
900 imperial tons, or 800 metric tons.
The moment Joe Rogan saw the AI scan results of Baalbek, he asked the question everyone was afraid to ask. Are we sure humans built this? In the mountains of Lebanon lies one of Earth's greatest enigmas, Baalbek. Massive stone blocks, each weighing hundreds of tons.
It is the largest cut stone on the planet, 1,650 tons, the newly discovered stone. Discovered in late 2014, we've just been chatting with the archaeologist about that.
Stacked with precision that seems impossible even today. Recently, advanced AI imaging scanned these megaliths in microscopic detail, and what it found stunned researchers and caught Joe Rogan's attention. The scans reveal patterns, cuts, and alignments that challenge our entire understanding of ancient engineering. Could this be evidence of a lost technology? Or something not entirely human? The past just got a digital upgrade. Let's find out what it's been hiding. The mysterious site that changes everything. Baalbek sits quietly in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, about 53 miles northeast of Beirut. To the casual observer, it might look like just another ancient ruin. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. This place houses some of the most mind-boggling stone structures ever created by humans, if they were created by humans at all. The sheer scale of what exists here makes modern engineers scratch their heads in complete bewilderment. The site itself spans a massive area and contains Roman temples that were built on top of even older foundations. But it's what lies beneath and around these temples that has researchers losing sleep. We're talking about stone blocks so enormous that moving them today would require equipment that didn't exist until the modern era. The question that keeps bubbling up is simple, yet profound. How did ancient civilizations accomplish what seems impossible, even with our current technology? When Joe Rogan brought this topic to his podcast, millions of listeners suddenly became aware of something archaeologists have been quietly debating for decades. The discussion wasn't just casual conversation. It was a deep dive into one of humanity's greatest unsolved mysteries. Corsetti and Richards presented evidence that suggests our ancestors, or whoever built these structures, possessed knowledge and capabilities far beyond what conventional history tells us. The timing of this conversation couldn't be more relevant. With new scanning technologies revealing hidden details about ancient sites around the world, we're living in an era where long-held beliefs about the past are being challenged. Baalbek stands at the center of this revolution. Every new scan, every fresh analysis seems to add another layer of mystery rather than solving the puzzle. What makes Baalbek particularly intriguing is that it's not alone. Similar megalithic structures exist around the globe, from Egypt to Peru, from England to Easter Island. But Baalbek might just be the most spectacular example of all. It's like someone wanted to create something so impressive, so technically difficult, that future generations would stand in awe and wonder how it was possible. The stones that shouldn't exist. Let's talk numbers because they're absolutely staggering. The Baalbek stones, particularly the famous trilithon, consist of 3 massive limestone blocks. Each one of these monsters measures over 60 feet long, about 14 feet high and 12 feet thick. The weight of each block? Approximately 800 tons. To put that in perspective, that's heavier than a fully loaded 747 jumbo jet. Now imagine moving 3 of them without modern machinery. But wait, it gets even crazier. In the quarry not far from the temple site, archaeologists discovered an unfinished stone block that dwarfs even the trilithon. This massive piece, known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, or Hajar al-Hibla, weighs somewhere around 1,000 tons. And if that wasn't enough, there's another stone nearby called the Stone of the South that tips the scales at approximately 1,242 tons. This is the largest working stone block on the entire planet. Modern construction equipment would struggle with stones of this magnitude. The largest mobile cranes today can lift around 20,000 tons, but that's with modern hydraulic technology, computer controls, and steel cables. The ancient builders supposedly had copper tools, wooden rollers, and human muscle power. The math simply doesn't add up. Engineers who study these stones often admit that even planning how to move them today would be a significant challenge. The precision of these cuts is another head-scratcher. We're not talking about rough-hewn boulders. These stones were shaped with remarkable accuracy. The surfaces are relatively smooth. The angles are nearly perfect. And they fit together so tightly that you can barely slide a piece of paper between them. This level of precision requires not just strength, but sophisticated understanding of geometry, engineering, and material science. What's even more puzzling is how these stones were transported from the quarry to their final position. The quarry sits about half a mile away from the temple complex. The route would have included some uphill sections. Modern calculations suggest that moving an 800-ton stone would require somewhere between 10,000 to 40,000 people pulling in perfect coordination. That's the population of a small city, all working in perfect harmony, with flawless communication and coordination. Does that scenario sound realistic to you? Joe Rogan's deep dive into ancient mysteries. Joe Rogan has never been shy about exploring controversial topics, and ancient civilizations have become one of his favorite subjects. His podcast has featured numerous guests who challenge mainstream archaeological narratives. The episode featuring Jimmy Corsetti and Dan Richards, numbered 2231, aired in late November 2024, and quickly became one of the most discussed episodes of the year. Corsetti runs a YouTube channel called Bright Insight, where he explores ancient mysteries and lost civilizations. Richards operates Debunking the Past, where he challenges skeptical explanations for ancient anomalies. Together on Rogan's show, they presented a compelling case that mainstream archaeology might be missing crucial pieces of the puzzle when it comes to sites like Baalbek. During the conversation, Rogan expressed genuine fascination with how these ancient structures could have been built. He's not someone who blindly accepts fringe theories, but he's also not afraid to question the official narrative when the evidence doesn't quite fit. The discussion ranged from the technical impossibilities of moving such massive stones to the broader implications of what advanced ancient civilizations might have existed. What makes Rogan's platform so influential is his massive audience. Millions of people tune in to hear long-form conversations that go beyond surface-level explanations. When he talks about ancient mysteries, it sparks curiosity in people who might never have considered these questions before. Suddenly, average people are researching megalithic structures, watching documentaries, and questioning what they learned in school about ancient history. The podcast format allows for the kind of detailed discussion that traditional media rarely permits. Rogan and his guests can spend 3 hours exploring a single topic, following tangents, examining evidence, and considering multiple perspectives. This depth of conversation is exactly what complex topics like Baalbek require. You can't explain the mystery of 800-ton stones in a 2-minute news segment. The AI scanning revolution. Here's where modern technology enters the picture and things get really interesting. Recent advances in scanning technology have given us new eyes to look at ancient sites. We're talking about LiDAR, ground-penetrating radar, satellite imaging, and eye-enhanced analysis. These tools can reveal details that are invisible to the naked eye and have been hidden for thousands of years. LiDAR technology, in particular, has revolutionized archaeology. It works by shooting millions of laser pulses at the ground from aircraft or drones. The lasers can penetrate tree canopy and vegetation, revealing the contours of the land beneath. When artificial intelligence analyzes the resulting data, it can identify patterns, structures, and anomalies that human researchers might miss. It's like giving archaeologists superhuman vision. When these scanning technologies have been applied to sites around the world, the results have been stunning. Lost cities have been discovered beneath jungle canopy in Central America. Hidden chambers have been detected inside Egyptian pyramids. Underground structures have been mapped without digging a single shovel of dirt. The technology is non-invasive, highly accurate, and incredibly revealing. For Baalbek specifically, various scanning efforts over the years have revealed intriguing details about the site's construction and layout. While comprehensive AI analysis of Baalbek continues, researchers have used these technologies to better understand how the stones were quarried, transported, and placed. Every scan seems to deepen the mystery rather than solve it completely. The really exciting development is how AI can analyze patterns across multiple ancient sites simultaneously. Machine learning algorithms can identify construction techniques, astronomical alignments, and architectural similarities that span continents and cultures. When researchers input data about Baalbek alongside information from other megalithic sites worldwide, the AI starts detecting connections that might indicate shared knowledge or common origins. What the scans actually revealed. So what did these advanced scans actually show at Baalbek? The results paint a picture that's both fascinating and perplexing. First, the scans confirmed what engineers suspected. The foundation platform on which the Roman temples sit is significantly older than the temples themselves. This massive platform, made of those enormous stone blocks, appears to predate Roman construction by potentially thousands of years. The scanning also revealed the incredible precision of the stone placement. The trilithon blocks are positioned with such accuracy that they form a near-perfect horizontal line, despite each block weighing hundreds of tons. The tolerances are tight, much tighter than you'd expect from primitive construction methods. Modern laser measurements show variations of only millimeters across spans of dozens of feet. Ground-penetrating radar has hinted at possible underground chambers and passages beneath the temple complex. While these haven't been fully excavated or explored, their presence suggests the site might be even more complex than what's visible on the surface. Could there be hidden rooms containing clues about who built this place and how they did it? That's the tantalizing question. The AI analysis of the stone-cutting patterns revealed something unexpected. The marks left by whatever tools were used to shape these blocks don't match what we'd expect from copper or bronze tools, which were supposedly the best available to ancient builders in the region. Some researchers have suggested that the cutting marks look more consistent with modern techniques, though that raises obvious questions about chronology. Additionally, when researchers compared the electromagnetic signatures of the Baalbek stones to the surrounding bedrock, they detected some unusual readings. The stones themselves seem to have properties slightly different from the quarry stone nearby. Whether this is due to how they were processed, some treatment they received, or natural variation remains unclear. But it adds another layer to the mystery: the engineering impossibility. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of why moving these stones seems so impossible. Engineering is all about forces, friction, leverage, and materials. When you try to apply these principles to the Baalbek stones, you run into problem after problem. Modern engineers have attempted to recreate how this might have been done with ancient technology, and the results are always the same. It's theoretically possible, but practically absurd. Consider the basic problem of lifting an 800-ton stone. If you wanted to use wooden levers, you'd need timber strong enough to bear that weight. Oak is one of the strongest woods available, but it would snap under such pressure. Even if you distributed the weight across hundreds of levers simultaneously, coordinating that effort would be a logistical nightmare. One mistake, one broken lever, and the entire stone could crash down, killing everyone nearby. Then there's the friction problem. Dragging an 800-ton stone across the ground creates enormous friction. Some theories suggest they used wooden rollers, but calculations show that the rollers would be crushed under the weight. Others propose they lubricated the path with oil or water, which would help but not nearly enough. The amount of energy required to overcome that friction is staggering. What about pulling the stone? If you had ropes attached to the front of the block, you'd need extremely strong rope that wouldn't snap. Hemp or flax rope, available to ancient peoples, has a breaking strength that makes this challenging. Even if you had strong enough rope, you'd need thousands of people pulling in exactly the same direction with exactly the same force at exactly the same time. Any imbalance, and the stone veers off course or tips over. Some researchers have proposed that the ancient builders might have used sand ramps, building massive temporary structures to slide the stones up inclines. But the ramps would need to be enormous themselves. To move an 800-ton stone up even a modest incline would require a ramp hundreds of feet long and incredibly sturdy. Building the ramp might be more work than moving the stone itself, and after all that effort, you'd have to dismantle the ramp completely because there's no trace of such structures today. The lost civilization theory. This is where things get really controversial but absolutely fascinating. Some researchers, including guests on Joe Rogan's podcast, have proposed that Baalbek and similar megalithic sites worldwide are remnants of an advanced civilization that existed long before recorded history. This isn't a new idea, but modern evidence is giving it new life. The theory goes something like this. Tens of thousands of years ago, possibly before the last ice age, there existed a sophisticated global civilization. This civilization had advanced knowledge of engineering, mathematics, astronomy, and possibly technologies we don't yet understand. For reasons that remain unclear, perhaps a cataclysmic event or series of events, this civilization was largely destroyed. But they left behind these massive stone structures as evidence of their existence. Supporters of this theory point to the fact that megalithic structures appear on every continent except Antarctica. The construction techniques, while not identical, share striking similarities. Many of these sites are aligned with astronomical phenomena like solstices and equinoxes. The level of mathematical and geometric knowledge required to create these alignments suggests sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. Critics of the lost civilization theory argue that there's no direct archaeological evidence of such a culture. Where are their cities, their tools, their written records? Proponents counter that we might not recognize their evidence because we're looking for the wrong things. If this civilization existed during the Ice Age, rising sea levels after the ice melted would have submerged many of their coastal settlements. What we see now might be just the mountaintop remnants. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. We know that ancient peoples were more capable than we often give them credit for. But the gap between what conventional archaeology tells us was possible and what we actually see at places like Baalbek is enormous. Maybe there weren't flying saucers or magical technology, but perhaps there was knowledge and capability that got lost as civilizations rose and fell over millennia. The Roman connection. Adding to the confusion at Baalbek is the Roman presence at the site. The Romans definitely built temples here, magnificent structures dedicated to Jupiter, Bacchus, and Venus. These Roman constructions are impressive in their own right and are much better understood. But here's the thing. The Romans built on top of that mysterious megalithic platform. They didn't build the platform itself. Roman engineering was remarkable. They built aqueducts, roads, bridges, and buildings that still stand today. They invented concrete and used it brilliantly. They understood arches, vaults, and load distribution. Roman engineers were among the best in the ancient world. Yet even at the height of Roman power, they never moved stones as large as the Baalbek trilithon anywhere else in their vast empire. The largest stones the Romans typically worked with weighed perhaps 50 to 100 tons, and even those required enormous effort and ingenious engineering. they would have documented moving 800-ton stones. They were great record keepers who loved to boast about their achievements. Yet there's no Roman record of moving the trilithon. That silence suggests they didn't move those stones because they found them already in place. The Roman temples at Baalbek were built starting around 15 BC and took generations to complete. The massive platform they built on was already ancient by that time. Some researchers estimate the platform could be 5,000 to 10,000 years old, possibly even older. The Romans simply recognized a great foundation when they saw one and built their temples on top of it. This creates a fascinating historical puzzle. Who were the people who built the original platform? What was it for originally? The Roman temples might be a case of one civilization building on the ruins of another, much older one. It wouldn't be the first time in history that conquerors appropriated earlier monuments, but the scale here is unprecedented. Comparing Baalbek to other megaliths. Baalbek isn't alone in the world of mysterious megaliths. In fact, there's a whole list of sites around the globe that feature massive stone construction that seems to defy logical explanation. When you start comparing these sites, patterns emerge that make you wonder if there was some shared knowledge or connection between ancient builders, separated by oceans and thousands of miles. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance. The largest stones in the pyramid weigh about 80 tons, which is substantial, but nowhere near Baalbek's 800-ton blocks. However, the pyramid contains about 2.3 million individual stones, and the precision of its construction is legendary. The base is almost perfectly level. The sides are aligned to true north with remarkable accuracy, and the internal chambers are marvels of engineering. Then there's Göbekli Tepe in Turkey.
Incredibly disturbing has come to my attention involving the world's oldest, largest, and arguably the most mysterious structure in all of human history,
which Joe Rogan has also discussed extensively on his podcast. This site dates back nearly 12,000 years, making it one of the oldest known megalithic structures. The carved stone pillars there weigh up to 20 tons each and feature intricate carvings of animals and symbols. What makes Göbekli Tepe shocking is that it was built by supposedly primitive hunter-gatherers who weren't supposed to have the organization or technology for such constructions. In Peru, you'll find the megalithic walls of Sacsayhuaman near Cusco. The stones there aren't quite as massive as Baalbek's, but the way they're fitted together is mind-blowing. The blocks have multiple faces, some with as many as 12 angles, yet they fit together so perfectly that you can't slide a knife blade between them. No mortar was used. How did builders thousands of years ago achieve such precision? Easter Island's famous Moai statues present another mystery.
Easter Island, famous for its massive stone statues carved so many centuries ago.
These huge stone heads were carved from volcanic rock and somehow transported miles from the quarry to their final positions around the island. Some weigh over 80 tons. The islanders had no wheels, no large animals for pulling, and limited resources. Yet they moved hundreds of these statues and erected them on stone platforms. The technology question. Here's where speculation gets really interesting, and where we have to be honest about what we don't know. If ancient peoples did move these massive stones, what technology might they have used? Conventional archaeology tells us they had ropes, rollers, ramps, levers, and massive amounts of human labor. But are we missing something? Could there have been technologies that left little archaeological trace? Some researchers have proposed the use of sound frequencies for levitation. This sounds like science fiction, but acoustic levitation is actually real, demonstrated in modern laboratories. By creating precise sound wave patterns, scientists can suspend small objects in midair. Could ancient peoples have understood acoustic properties well enough to scale this up for moving massive stones? It's an intriguing idea, but lacks direct evidence. Others point to electromagnetic properties. Some ancient sites show unusual magnetic readings or seem to be positioned along lines of geomagnetic significance. Could ancient builders have understood and harnessed electromagnetic forces in ways we don't yet recognize? It's possible, but difficult to prove without concrete evidence of such devices. Then there's the controversial idea of ancient concrete, or geopolymer. Some researchers claim that at least some megalithic blocks weren't carved and moved, but were poured in place using an ancient form of concrete. Chemical analysis of stones from various sites has shown some unusual composition that might support this theory, though mainstream archaeology remains skeptical. What about simpler explanations that still involve lost knowledge? Perhaps ancient engineers understood mechanical advantage and leverage in ways that surpass our current techniques. Maybe they had methods of reducing friction that we haven't rediscovered. Or possibly they used natural features like water channels and buoyancy in clever ways that we're not considering. The honest answer is we don't know. And that's okay. Science progresses by acknowledging what we don't understand and continuing to investigate. The worst thing we can do is claim certainty when the evidence doesn't support it. The technology question remains open, inviting creative thinking and rigorous research. The mainstream archaeological response. It's important to understand how mainstream archaeology responds to these mysteries. Most archaeologists don't deny that sites like Baalbek are impressive or that ancient peoples were capable builders. What they push back against are claims that require invoking lost super-civilizations or impossible technologies. Their position is that human ingenuity, given enough time and motivation, can accomplish remarkable things. Academic archaeologists point to experimental archaeology, where researchers try to recreate ancient techniques. There have been successful small-scale demonstrations of moving multi-ton stones using only period-appropriate tools and methods. They argue that while moving 800-ton stones is extremely difficult, it's not impossible with enough resources and determination. Ancient societies could marshal thousands of workers for prestigious building projects. They also emphasize that just because we don't have written records of how something was done, doesn't mean it was impossible or required advanced technology. Much knowledge in ancient times was passed down orally through master builders and their apprentices. When civilizations collapsed, that practical knowledge could be lost without leaving written evidence behind. Furthermore, mainstream archaeology is cautious about dating. Just because something looks impossibly old doesn't mean it is. Dating ancient structures is tricky, especially when dealing with stone, which can't be carbon dated directly. Archaeologists need organic material associated with the construction, like charcoal from fires or wooden tools left behind. Without that, dates remain uncertain. The academic community also worries about the slippery slope of attributing everything mysterious to aliens or lost super-civilizations. Once you go down that road, it becomes easy to dismiss the real achievements of ancient peoples. Humans built these structures. The question is how, not whether they needed outside help. That said, many archaeologists privately admit there's still much we don't understand about ancient construction techniques. The field is constantly evolving as new evidence comes to light. Good scientists remain open to revising their views when better data becomes available. The role of AI in modern archaeology. Artificial intelligence is genuinely revolutionizing how we study ancient sites, and this is where the future gets exciting. AI can process enormous amounts of data far faster than humans, spotting patterns and anomalies that might take researchers years to identify manually. This technology is opening new windows into the past. Machine learning algorithms can analyze satellite imagery to identify potential archaeological sites based on subtle changes in vegetation or ground coloration. These algorithms have already discovered thousands of previously unknown ruins, tombs, and settlements. When applied to known sites like Baalbek, AI can create incredibly detailed three-dimensional models and identify architectural features invisible to the naked eye. AI is also being used to analyze construction sequences. By examining tool marks, weathering patterns, and structural relationships, algorithms can sometimes determine the order in which different parts of a site were built. This helps archaeologists understand the evolution of construction techniques and potentially identify different building phases separated by centuries or millennia. Natural language processing, another AI technique, is helping researchers connect dots across thousands of ancient texts and inscriptions. These algorithms can identify references to specific sites, construction methods, or historical events, even when they appear in fragmentary or poorly preserved documents. This could potentially uncover ancient descriptions of how sites like Baalbek were built. AI-enhanced restoration is another exciting development. By analyzing patterns in damaged structures, AI can suggest how missing pieces might have looked. This doesn't prove anything about the original construction, but it helps researchers visualize complete structures and understand the builder's intentions. For sites like Baalbek, where much of the original complex is missing or damaged, this is incredibly valuable. The combination of multiple scanning technologies with AI analysis creates a powerful toolkit for archaeologists. Ground-penetrating radar data, LiDAR scans, electromagnetic surveys, and chemical analysis can all be fed into AI systems that look for correlations and patterns. This multimodal approach is revealing details about ancient sites that would have remained hidden using traditional methods alone. The astronomical alignments. One aspect of Baalbek and similar megalithic sites that shouldn't be overlooked is their astronomical alignments. Many of these ancient structures are positioned or oriented in ways that correspond to celestial events, like solstices, equinoxes, or the rising and setting of particular stars. This demonstrates sophisticated astronomical knowledge among ancient builders. At Baalbek, researchers have noted alignments that suggest the builders tracked the movements of the sun and possibly other celestial bodies. The temples face east, allowing the rising sun to illuminate their interiors at specific times of year. This isn't unique to Baalbek, but it shows that whoever designed the site understood solar cycles and considered them important. What's particularly interesting is that the astronomical alignments often seem more precise than would be necessary for simple agricultural calendars. Ancient peoples needed to track seasons for planting and harvesting, yes, but some of these alignments suggest deeper astronomical knowledge. They tracked stellar precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that changes which star serves as the North Star over thousands of years. Some researchers argue that these alignments indicate ancient peoples possessed sophisticated mathematical and observational skills that rivaled or exceeded those of much later civilizations. To create a structure perfectly aligned to true north, or to the rising sun on the summer solstice, requires careful observation over years or even decades, plus the mathematical ability to translate those observations into architectural plans. The prevalence of astronomical alignments at megalithic sites worldwide suggests that ancient cultures placed enormous importance on the heavens. Whether this was religious, practical, or both remains debatable. But it's clear that whoever built these structures invested significant effort in ensuring they were related to celestial phenomena in specific ways. This astronomical sophistication raises questions about ancient knowledge networks. How did cultures separated by vast distances develop similar astronomical understanding? Did they discover these principles independently, or was there some exchange of knowledge? The similarity of astronomical alignments at sites on different continents is one of the aspects that makes researchers wonder about possible ancient connections we've not yet discovered. Outro. The massive stones of Baalbek continue to stand as silent witnesses to an incredible feat of ancient engineering that we still can't fully explain. Whether they represent the work of a lost advanced civilization or simply the peak of ancient human capability, they challenge our understanding of history and human potential. Joe Rogan's discussion brought these questions to millions of listeners, sparking renewed interest in one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Modern AI and scanning technology are giving us new tools to examine these ancient sites, revealing details that previous generations never knew existed. Yet with each new revelation, the mystery seems to deepen rather than resolve. The truth about how and why these enormous stones were placed remains tantalizingly out of reach, waiting for future discoveries to illuminate the darkness of the distant past. What do you think? Could ancient peoples have possessed knowledge or technology that's been lost to history? Or are these megalithic wonders simply proof of human determination and ingenuity using conventional methods? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's keep this fascinating conversation going.